Welcome to At the Vines, the podcast that brings you inside the world of the vines, a global community of adventurers, storytellers, wine lovers, and winemakers. Through unforgettable experiences in the world's most iconic wine regions, our members connect with place, culture, and each other in ways that are both personal and profound. Each episode will introduce you to fascinating people, our members, our team, winemakers, and friends we met along the way, and explore what inspires them to travel boldly, live fully, and craft wines that reflect their own unique stories. This week on At the Vines, Brian and I sit down with Aaron Franklin, founder and pitmaster of the world-renowned Franklin BBQ in Austin, Texas. We talk about Aaron's journey from a small trailer operation to becoming one of the most influential figures in American barbecue, and how his obsession with quality, from sourcing the right beef to designing humane facilities, mirrors the craftsmanship of great winemaking. We also explore how music, hospitality, and the pursuit of unforgettable experiences tie it all together. Please enjoy this conversation with Aaron Franklin. Okay, welcome, Aaron Franklin.
Hello, hello.
So you've spent the last week about in Mendoza. Mm-hmm. First, second, and third impressions on the place, the beef, the people.
Oh, it's great. Of course it's beautiful. Everybody, it's no secret that it's beautiful out here. We got the mountains over here, all the stuff you planted, all the landscaping, the building, the layout, everything's great. What I'm really most impressed with is the kindness of all the people. Like every single person that works here has been so nice. I feel like we've made so many new friends just over the past few days of cooking overnight. And, people just come out and they'll just bring you a little, snack or like a little, like some beers or like some waters and stuff. And the kitchen guys have been great. Yeah, it's great. And the beef is great too. We cook in such a different way down in Texas that this beef isn't really geared for how we cook in Texas, or in America for that matter. But I've been really impressed. We did that test cook yesterday with brisket, and it was pretty darn good.
What's the main difference? Less fat, smaller animals. What's the main?
Well, and I wanted
because we've been looking all over Argentina for the best cows for this.
Oh, I know, and it's
event.
been just like they're like, how's this look? How's this look? How's this? Not quite right. And you guys finally nailed it. I think you really did find that stuff possible. I'm not real sure about the cows. They tell me they're Angus. I'm not sure, but it's interesting seeing how the muscle structures work, because everything's just kind of stretched out in a weird way. But I really wanted to go to the farm and meet the farmer of these fine little cows, and just kind of like go hang out with them, just look at them. So I'm not real sure about what the difference is in the cows, but of course they're grass fed, and in the States the ones we use at Franklin BBQ, are free grazing, use as much grass as they want, but they also get to use as much grain as they want. Mm-hmm. So we don't feedlot anything. Nothing's forced to eat anything, that it doesn't really want. But here, you guys don't really do grain, but the cows that we used, you guys did finish on grain. So I think that helped get it pretty close to what we do. But yeah, it's beautiful stuff though.
And in just a few hours, we're gonna taste the final result.
I think so. We're definitely gonna taste it. I think it's gonna be good.
Well, I think probably everybody knows a bit about your story, but how did this all Franklin BBQ revolution start?
Well, we opened Franklin BBQ in 2009 in a little trailer off the side of a highway, and Stacy and I had been doing backyard barbecues for probably about 7 years before that. And if we kind of look at the scene, it didn't exist like it does now. Like you couldn't just go to a barbecue place in our zip code. I mean, I think 78702 in Austin, gosh, I think there's probably like 50 or 60 barbecue joints just in that little like east side pocket. And that's where we're at. And when we opened, there were maybe 5, and they had been there a real long time. So things were super duper different. I'd like to say, I feel like we just got really, really lucky. We're like a unicorn of a restaurant.
Right time, right place.
All the stuff. Internet was kind of kicking off. People were trying to blog about food, all these things.
Austin was kind of having a nice revolution again, or kind of getting hot again.
Absolutely. South by Southwest was going crazy. They started doing some food stuff. That helped. But yeah, I think right time, right place, for sure our food's really, really good and all that stuff. But I think our hospitality is really, really good. Yeah. And it's kind of, when you're standing in line, and kind of same with you guys, we're always checking. It's like, getting a little getting a little too much sun, have some sunscreen. Ooh, maybe drinking a little much. Here, have some water. Oh, your kiddo's hungry. Let's make him a snack. Oh, I'll go wash those baby bottles for you. There's a lot of that kind of stuff going on. So I think that's kind of our sweet spot. And I think that kind of stuff just goes with the food and the whole experience. And yeah, the building's kind of a dump. I built it myself. And, but I think that's kind of it. But I guess really no one had maybe done that yet.
Yeah. I mean, Franco Barbecue is famous for its barbecue, the quality, but also the line, and that you're going to go and wait. It probably wasn't day one, but when did it go from like, hey, we're really popular to like, holy shit, we've got a line outside every day?
Well, we opened in December, and I was cooking 3 briskets a day, or 3 briskets on the busy day, Saturday. And that was really in case one of them wasn't very good. I still had 2. And that was December, right before Christmas. And then I think maybe by the 3rd or 4th week of January, started noticing people showing up before we opened. And I remember the first day that happened, I was cooking out there, and the one cooker, same size that you guys built for us up here or down here. I don't know where I'm at. Just cooking on that thing outside in a trailer, and I kind of looked outside, and these people had lawn chairs and stuff, or sort of walked out there. I'm like, hey,
we're not open yet.
What are you waiting for? Well, I didn't think they were there for us.
Right.
It was just the strangest thing I'd ever seen.
This is not Ticketmaster.
Yeah, I was like, well, what are you guys trying to get into the coffee roaster? The door's over here. I can let you guys in. I'm like, no, we're here for barbecue. Like, what? What the heck, man? Really, really freaked me out. And that continued really until about March. It was that first South by Southwest, and that's the first time we had a line from the trailer, because we started in the trailer, to I-35, and that was about 100 people deep. So it was only less than 3 months.
Wow.
And then, of course, the line I was thinking to myself, I really have to build another barbecue pit. So I built another barbecue pit, and the day I fired it up, I filled it up, and the line got twice as long. And then I started the next cooker, and then it got longer. And then, so each one, it was not like
and then you needed more staff. Like, you couldn't just, like, you and Stacy couldn't hand out brisket to 200 people.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was kind of bonkers. I mean, now we have about 45 that work at the restaurant. But, yeah.
How many briskets a day? Started with 3.
Well, we started with 2, 3 on Saturdays, and now we do anywhere between about 106 and 120 is our max, if they're not too skinny.
And why not 200? You've got a line every day.
Well, we built a smokehouse.
I mean, I know there's no more room in the smokehouse, but that's separate from that.
There's just no more room. And really, 100 briskets is really where we feel comfortable keeping the quality. It's exponentially more difficult to cook 100 briskets exactly the same every single day than it is 30 or 40 or 50. 50 is a really good number. That's manageable by like one person. You could do that. But once you get into like the hundreds, it gets real tough to keep it good. And, it's a ridiculous amount of meat. It's a ridiculous amount of firewood. It's a lot of labor. It's hard to do. It just doesn't feel right.
Those trips where you just feel like you're checking boxes? At the Vines, it's completely different. You're out in the vineyards, blending your own wine with amazing winemakers, discovering hidden places, and sharing these incredible dinners with people who feel like old friends. It's real, it's hands-on, and it's unforgettable. Come hang out with us. Check us out at The Vines Winemakers on Instagram.
So we spent the last few days here with Francis Malman, and I saw you taking a peek at some of his techniques, and I was struck just by the similarities and differences. I mean, for me, the commonalities: super good product, like the best possible product, treated with love, lots of patience, and that. I mean, I may be missing something, but that kind of seems like it between. I mean, they couldn't be more different styles, but those seem to be the keys.
Yeah, I think the roots are the same. I think we kind of come from the same, like the way we think about fires and kind of building flavors and the simplicity of all these things. I don't want to say it was a surprise, but when we started talking about it, I was like, oh yeah, hey, B2, hey, oh, you do that? Oh yeah. And that was really cool. But then, we just start kind of veering off path, and then we kind of, sort of, as cooks are pretty far apart, but the core is the same. And then, the quality of the food, of course, is excellent. But yeah, the way I kind of get a little more sciencey and, replicate everything. And I love like, rustic nature of cooking, and that's how I cook at home, but like, since I have to do a restaurant every single day and feed, 500 people in 4 hours every day, like I'm just, really heavy on the calculations and the airflow and all these sciencey things. And, I've got to mention that to Francis. He's like, yeah, no.
No, Francis isn't doing math in his good day.
No.
Did you learn anything from their time with Francis?
I think, no, I don't know that I did. I don't know that I know that I did yet. I think in hindsight, when I kind of like decompress after all this stuff and kind of thinking about things like, oh yeah, I think it'll start to sink in. I think it's too soon. It's too soon.
I've seen a lot of similarities over the last couple of days between the winemaking and smoking.
Oh,
The commitment to quality and the whole process. Can you talk a little bit about, your commitment to quality and the time it takes and kind of projecting taste, like what we do with winemaking, we have to project what the wine would taste like.
Oh,
this is packaging.
There's so many similarities. I mean, the way that, in the class, it was like kind of thinking about what your North Star is and then how to, kind of navigate your way back up there. Kind of pick apart a thing. Where do you want to be? How do you get there? And once you start kind of analyzing everything backwards, reverse engineering it, then it's a lot easier for that. So, I mean, I think that's how I think of food. That's how I think of barbecue. I mean, when you've got something that is going to take 40 hours of prep to get to, like, you want it to be really good because you've invested a lot of energy and a lot of money into this stuff, same as wine. And you have all these variables going on. I mean, we've got the climate like you guys do, and, it could turn south way out of your control. But I think to just try to calculate as many things along the way and take out as many variables as possible, I mean, that, and of course the talent comes from doing it every year for you guys, like all the time. For us, I'm like, oh, well, that was a little bit different. And then you just gradually evolve and change things for the same output.
Yeah, I think the quality at every step of the process, we talk a lot about the terroir.
Mm-hmm.
We did soil samples. We want to make sure that we planted the right way. And can you talk a little bit about where you sourced your cattle?
Yeah. Along the same lines, we use all Angus. They have very good genetics, got good genes. Dan?
Wrangler. Boot cut.
But a little boot cut, I guess, is nice. So we use Angus. We do all Midwest beef. It comes from about 50 to 60 family little farms, and between Oklahoma, well, really between Kansas all the way getting towards up Chicago. And the reason is that's where the good grasses grow, and that's a big part of how the fat develops on an animal. There's so many different types of fats, really 3 on a brisket, and to get the intermuscular fat, the marbling, which is what we really, really need. Don't care much about the subcutaneous fat. Doesn't matter to us, and then the seam fat between the 2 muscles on a brisket, like that stuff really has a lot to do with what the cow eats, how it was raised. And then as you kind of go through an animal's life, you want to treat it right because it's going to eventually have one really bad day, and hopefully it doesn't see it coming at all. But that's kind of the thing. You want to be kind to them. And this, I know I sound like a total hippie saying this, but this stuff truly matters. Like, all these details totally stack up for what we want. And, when you've got a happy animal that's raised right, it's put down ethically, it's not scared, it's treated with respect, and that's how you get the good stuff. But yeah, we're pretty vertically integrated on that stuff. We have really dialed in genetics. We have the good grasses. We have certain kind of feeds that we use. They're not forced to eat anything, like I said. There's no feedlot action. They're not herded into little quarters. We're really, the people that are raising these animals are more dirt scientists, and they just grow good grass. And that's really what, has a lot to do with it. But when they kind of go in, when we harvest them, they go in, and our place was designed by Temple Grandin, which you guys should look up. She does some pretty cool stuff with animals. And, they go in, and everything's just set, like when they're coming off the trucks, everything's just real peaceful and quiet. And they have water troughs, and they can drink water. And when it's hot outside, there's just little catwalks, and people just go out there and hose them off and make sure they're not getting too hot. And they're just being really careful with them and stuff. And then they kind of go, this is getting a little dark. But they go through this tunnel, and the whole Temple Grandin designed this thing so it goes dark and it has this calming effect. And then this plate comes up and hits them in the chest, and they kind of, it applies pressure, and they kind of like feel a calm. And then, of course, that's about it. But even the way, we do after that, like we have our own spec for brisket. We run our own line. There's a whole and it's actually like a real spec, of our briskets. And so because we like them a little shorter, we like them a little like this. And by the time we do all that stuff, the line slows down, everything stops, they reset, the specs go up, and it just says Franklin.
I'm sure you've every once in a while try other briskets or whatever. You can tell kind of how an animal was treated
Absolutely.
when it comes out of the cooker.
Yep. I mean, it might be tough like with just one, but if we start getting some stuff, they're like, something's not right, and that I talk with our meat or our beef provider like pretty often. So we're in pretty close contact. If something's weird or maybe, something's cut a little funny, I'll just shoot that, the plant person a text and be like, hey, send them a picture and be like, got this from case number, blah, blah, blah. And there's also like genetic tracing and all, everything. We can look at the barcode on there and know what farm it came from. We can know everything about that particular thing. But, and usually he's like, man, we had a new guy on the line today. Yep, I'll go train with him. And then I'll look at the pack date because we hold our briskets for 2 weeks to 3 weeks before we come in or before they come in. And I could look at the date and be like, oh, like almost to like the day that I called, like it's right back.
And it's interesting because it seems like the challenge is, or one of the biggest challenges is controlling the variables. And it's one of the things I've learned from you the last weeks, because you can't control them all. You can't control them all, especially if you're at home and you're buying your brisket from the local butcher or something like that. But to be able to deliver a quality product, 120 a day, you've just got to control as many variables as possible.
Yeah, and you control them as much as you can. And then the ones you can't control that's where the craft comes in. That's where you have to like really be like, okay, like some guy that's been making the perfect rice forever. Like it's that level of kind of, being super meticulous on stuff.
Jiro dreams of brisket.
Yeah, man. The first time I watched that on a flight, I was like, oh my God.
So last night, we're cooking, and tonight's the big finale with the briskets that we've been cooking, and we're gonna do 12 hours or something. Last night we had a bunch of rain. Did that as that started to rain, we were like, uh-oh, I'm gonna have to do something different. Like, what went through your mind when it started pouring rain? Like, all right, we're gonna start to cook.
Well, I don't think I should say the real words that I said out loud.
Because it was coming down.
Yeah, it really started coming down. I definitely pulled out my phone, looked on the weather app, and ran back to the kitchen, found a tarp, covered up the wood that was out there. And fortunately, it stopped raining about an hour before we needed to start cooking. So all was fine.
So no worries.
No worries.
And if it had kept raining, what would have, just other than kind of keeping things dry and all of that?
It just would have been a really miserable night.
Yeah.
And what we learned on how to build our fires with different wood, different elevation, on a strange cooker that works really good, by the way. All the data we collected throughout that class, which was the whole point to doing the class before our dinner cook. And then, of course, we did an overnight cook last night for the class. So all the stuff we learned would have just been null and void in the rain. It would have changed everything for us.
Well, good thing it didn't.
I'm glad it didn't.
Talk a little bit about the class. So we've had now about 35, 40 people here learning from Francis and from you and your team. It strikes me that it's very different. It's not like watching a YouTube video on how to cook. I mean, you've been digging in. The questions have been super technical and nerdy.
It's a good question.
I mean, it's been super immersive. Maybe just talk a little bit about kind of what it is for you to have that experience and because it's not, it's very different. It's not like, oh, come eat Aaron Franklin's food. It was no, come and learn and really work with. I mean, these people are getting smoky and dirty and you name it.
I think I've never really done classes. It's kind of,
it wasn't that easy to convince you, by the way.
No. It took 2 years by the time it finally
Negroni, countless Negronis.
Yeah, lots of Negronis. By the time it finally came around, I was like, oh my God, what have I gotten myself into? And
These guys are never going to give up.
I really have to organize something now. Darn. Yeah, I mean, really, the only thing I've got is me. Like, I can only be myself. And that's kind of why I don't do a lot of things because, like, I think people want like a certain kind of cookie cutter style or like, oh, well, this is how classes go. And I think they're all kind of organized about the same. And I tried to organize this class sort of the same. And I did that. And, like, spent so much time making outlines and just going through stuff. And I had stuff written down that I wanted to talk about. And then, when we got here, the meats were different. We didn't know if the briskets were going to, turn out great. We didn't know, we were supposed to have pork butts, but it turns out we had 2 small pigs, so like everything kind of changed. I was like, okay, well, I don't really want to focus on just brisket for the class. So then I was thinking to myself, again, let's focus on offset cooker. And then and of course we just talked about brisket the whole time anyway. because that's what everybody wants to know about. But, I think for me doing a class, the only way that I could really do it, be me, and not feel rigid and like I'm forcing anything is just to be like, all right, well, let's just talk our way through stuff, and of course it'd be a lot easier to do it in a chronological order as you're doing the cook, but obviously we can't have a 23-hour class. That's kind of ridiculous. None of us want to do that. Definitely not me.
But a bunch of people stayed up late,
Yeah.
cooking and helping and splitting wood and the whole deal.
Yeah, super cool. And that's kind of, I think, the way it should be, and I like just how loose it is, but I also kind of base this kind of stuff on that's how I like to talk. That's how I like to, ask me a question. I'm an open book, just what do you want to know? If I know anything about it, I'll tell you what I know. And I don't have a good filter. So it's take all this information, probably way too much. And, but I like the style of barbecue, like, people just standing around a grill, having a cold drink, hanging out. And I feel like that's how I want my classes to be also, and that's kind of why we did it that way.
It's kind of just an 8-hour party, basically. Is what
Yeah.
it is.
And
We
I
learned
was
a lot.
telling
But
Francis, the night before, it was like, she's like, oh, well, how are you feeling about things? I'm like, I feel pretty good, just about to throw an 8-hour party. And it's totally true.
There are two kinds of people: people who like wine and people who make their own wine in the middle of a vineyard in Argentina while planning their next trip to South Africa or New Zealand or Champagne. If you're the second kind or want to be, check out The Vines. We design wild, delicious, and slightly addictive wine adventures all over the world. Follow @The Vines Winemakers on Instagram. You'll get it.
What do you hope that each of our guests walk away with?
I hope they walk away feeling like they got a really good value. And that's a tall order. I mean, that's a lot of stuff. And, the worst thing anyone could ever say that would just like really, really hurt, it'd be like, man, that guy really called it in. That guy didn't really care at all about
there's zero chance that happened this week.
and that would just be like, oh my God, I failed. Like, and that's really why I did it like that, because I want to make sure that every single person gets what they want, and maybe, the challenging thing obviously was like the skill level parameters,
We had
so
several like chefs that own restaurants. We had one self-admitted guy that doesn't know how to cook at all. We had a
Yeah.
whole range in between.
all over the place. And it was so hard for me to kind of, if you guys remember, like the first part of that, we were by the smoker, was a little rigid, was kind of like trying to size people up. And I would say some things, and a couple people like, ooh. And then a couple other people like, oh, and zoning out, like, all right, I went too far, and it's kind of trying to figure it out. And then once I kind of found a groove with everybody, it's like, okay, this is what we're doing. But yeah, I think, I've done a few of these, and each one is completely different, and it is all dependent on who's there. It's just the dynamic that you get, So I think, it's too hard to plan stuff. As much as I want to take out the variables, I also have to account for variables.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's been really fun over the last couple of years getting to know each other and hanging out. And we share at least three passions: great food, great music, and great cocktails.
Like, yeah.
So if you're thinking about, I don't know, maybe you're planning Stacy's 50th birthday. What are you serving? Cocktail, beer, food. What do you music? What's going on? Let's say even take it a step further. You got a live band or two. Like you're blowing it out. What's this looking like? It's probably looking like your Memorial Day weekend party that you already throw.
Yeah. Well, Stacy doesn't like huge parties. She likes real
so intimate,
smaller, intimate settings. And I can guarantee what we're going to be doing on her 50th birthday. We're going to be on the East Coast, probably around Maine somewhere, shucking oysters,
Nice.
eating lobster rolls, making dinner with probably, maybe 8 to 10
Okay, nice.
close friends, and just hanging out and sipping martinis and drinking wine.
That sounds pretty good. Maybe we need to think about Viv's 21st birthday then.
Yeah. I think
She should be more of the party side.
We really like seafood a lot.
But if you're hosting a party at your house, you've got a bunch of friends over, and you've been 25 people. Well, what are you doing?
Well, usually steaks, because they're easy for me. Like that's the one thing I really know how to cook. I mean, I know how to cook a few things, but and not be in the kitchen all day, just like prep stuff. Because the hard part about throwing a dinner party is that well, at least for me, like I have to work until the very last minute and I'm just scrambling to get stuff together. I hate it. I love to be well prepped and set up, and it's just usually not in the cards time wise. So for me, a bunch of people, if it's cold outside, it's a fire pit. It's not too different from what we're doing here, but like probably big tomahawk steaks, just larger cuts, maybe like cooked boeuf, maybe like a prime rib kind of situation. Par cook it, smoke it, actually I would never smoke anything at home. Oh, that's gross.
Are you doing like dry aged, or are you doing?
No, I love some dry aged stuff for sure. I think probably, yeah, there could be some dry aged stuff. That's possible. That has happened a lot. But a dinner party at our house is always jazz. I'm a big jazz guy, and that's kind of what's on the playlist. Backyard with the lights coming down from the kitchen, coming in, shucking oysters around the kitchen counter. There's always just like a sack of oysters in the fridge, and probably making martinis, making Negronis, starting off with some cocktails. Got a bunch of wine iced down, if it's hot outside. Bunch of stack of red wine. Some of y'all stuff is definitely in the mix at home. And yeah, just chugging some oysters, transition into dinner. So kind of surf and turf. That's my style.
Sounds pretty damn good.
And they of course usually end up on the front porch, just sipping some drinks late at night.
I think that's what I've been struck most about. Is it's like it's not a. This sounds ridiculous. In many ways, it's not about the food. It's about coming together. It's about people. I mean, the food's amazing, but it's like the whole process, and it's not transactional. Is maybe a better way.
Yeah.
To think about it.
That is how I think about things. The stuff is not transactional at all. I think the way we operate at Franklin, the way I like to operate pretty much all the time, is just making memories. It's not about the food. It's not about it's just about everything. It's about how it smells. It's about the music. It's about who you're talking to. It's about the weather that's out there. It's all the things, and that makes one little memory.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Before you were a barbecue guy, you were a music guy. You're still a music guy, but you were like a touring musician.
Yeah. In a super terrible band, severely not paid, just for fun.
Just for fun. But any similarities? Anything you learned from your time on the road or your time as a musician? Any crossovers?
Yeah, tons of crossover. I mean, now, of course, we've gotten serious. Thank you, Stacy, at the restaurant. But when
yes, thank you, Stacy. We can say that also.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, really, I knew how to operate a band, never run a business before. So in the early days, the way that Franklin Barbecue, and it still really is set up this way, but of course, we're just better at the admin. It was always kind of set up like how you run a band. Like you're in the back of the house, you're cooking overnight, doing all the stuff. You're just kind of getting everything prepped and cooked, and then getting ready for the show, and then when the door opens, gates open, and you're just on stage for 4 hours or 3 hours or whatever, while you're just slicing everything, doing omakase and all this kind of stuff. So it kind of, in my head, it's pretty congruent to playing music.
And what's the soundtrack that you're, other than jazz? So you start out with jazz, and then as the night progresses, you probably move on to something different, or you stick with jazz all night?
It could really move around. If I'm cooking overnight, I usually start off with something pretty chill, not, I mean, it's like midnight, I'm not going to go too off the rails. But it's kind of the way that a playlist would work for me is you'll listen to something, you're like, oh man, Brewbuck was great. Man, I think I'm going to switch over to Paul Desmond. And then you make the switch, and then that reminds you of another musician, like, oh, this guy, and then this guy, and then you end up, from there, like, this band also, and it's just kind of like connect the dots. So I think it's kind of a little bit of an adventure, but usually, jazz could get into, kind of like 80s, 90s, like hardcore post-rock kind of stuff, like DC, maybe like some San Diego kind of stuff, which is really more my scene. Could definitely get
DC, like Fugazi kind of?
Yeah. That's very
Minor
very
Threat, all of that. I grew up there. I was in
cool.
that scene, like
Okay.
that. Ian. I went to school with Ian. I went to high school with Ian.
Oh, how about that?
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah. Okay. That's exactly the stuff I'm into. So then from there, maybe once people start showing up at the restaurant that don't want to listen to that stuff, all right, I'll put on Van Halen, not Hagar, Halen. And then once we kind of like start going, it'll kind of start winding down. And this is, of course, just my Smokehouse playlist kind of trajectory. Once guests start showing up and I know they can hear it from the Smokehouse, then I start kind of like dialing it back a little bit. So then by the time we open, it's on the normal Franklin playlist, which is pretty much early 70s and older country.
Nice. Aaron, it's been a real pleasure having you down in Mendoza. You all are welcome back anytime. Hopefully we'll do this again next year, and we'll definitely be seeing you and your crew in Austin very soon.
We'll be there.
Appreciate it. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, man. Cheers.